Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Madam Looks podcast. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts out of Buffalo, New York, the host of Muzzy Buzz, my man Mort, up on the top left-hand corner of your screen. We have Abu Huha himself, Sheikh Amir Saeed, on your bottom right-hand corner. And Bidik Fihi Til Humam.
That's the only thing he knows in Arabic.
That's how we started off the last show. With Bidik Fihi Til Humam.
So basically, the beginning of the show is our chance for Sim to practice his Arabic. Whatever we learn during the week, he just blurts it out and tries to incorporate it into the introduction.
Goofy guy.
Humam Samurai comes from the wonderful land of Minnesota. He is from a well-known family with very well-known sisters who are in all kinds of different activities, like or professions rather, like psychotherapy and things like that. And Humam is always a welcome sight for sore eyes, as they say.
Humam the samurai. Do you get that from people?
Yeah.
Samurai become samurai.
That's how I tell them to say it, just to make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh.
A lot of
his
the
voice catching. Can you say something again? I can't hear it in my.
It's my mic.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I had your mic turned off.
Okay.
You always miss something.
It's okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
Sim, I sent you the link
Oh, thank
for
you.
the show.
I'll go ahead and put that out there.
All right.
Humam, I was talking to some of my friends out in Minnesota. They're like, "Oh, Humam, you're supposed to come out to the El Maghrib Ilm Fest and you didn't show up." They're very upset.
Where was that? Was that in Chicago?
Or not Ilm Fest. What was that? Story night or whatever with Sheikh Umar Suleiman.
Was that in Minnesota?
Yeah, in Minnesota.
They were waiting for you,
Was
bro?
that this weekend?
Yeah, I guess apparently you have a lot of friends over there who were saying.
I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, so I know a lot of the people just by virtue of growing
Okay,
up
we
there.
get it. It's not your crowd.
No, I actually like in Maghreb. I used to go to a lot of their stuff.
Yeah. Starting off the story, making him feel uncomfortable for not going somewhere, bro. I was gonna make him feel uncomfortable because I thought he was gonna bring some camel meat from us from Minnesota.
Minnesota's a fun place, at least with
is,
the
man.
burgeoning, Muslim crowd that's blowing up over there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You were telling me a little bit about the show or about the scene in Minnesota before I cut you off. I said, "Hey, save it for the show." I want to know a little bit about how you're saying that the Somali community over there has made Salah like really public, and everyone is like praying Salah everywhere now. It's like unashamedly, unembarrassed, and very proud of their Islam.
So Arab started coming to Minnesota in like the 80s.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like shy to pray in public. You know what I mean? So they'd be in the store, like, let's go in the fitting room. You know what I mean? Like, and then the Somalis came in like the early to mid 90s. Not that early, maybe like starting from 93. And they would just pray anywhere. They didn't care. Like, it was so awesome. And so over time, like by the time the 2000s rolled around, Arab were praying in the street too. And I mean, so they really shifted everything. And
When you say Arab, like where are the Arabs are from? Are they Palestinians? Usually Egyptian? What are they?
there's Palestinians, Egyptians, a few Lebanese, like a few Syrian families.
Okay, but mainly like Palestinians and Egyptians.
Mainly Palestinians and Egyptians.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
You know who also like that? I'll be honest too. Pakistanis, Indians, they don't care. They pray anywhere. I mean, look at a lot of the masajids in North America in general.
Yeah.
A lot of them are like they build them up. They just pray. I mean, you go to an airport. I mean, if you see like a cab line anywhere, you'll see the Pakistanis and Somalis and the Indians. They're praying anywhere. They make wudu and open. They get caught with the foot in the sink. They don't care. Like they don't care at all.
Don't you think that's mainly from the guys from Tablighi Jamaat though? Jamaat Tabligh. I don't think it's the average.
I feel like Desis are kind of like Turks, where it's like hit or miss. Like
There's no middle ground.
Yeah, that could be it. Well, you know what? I think there's a lot of things. I think it depends on, and I think it's also the same for the Arabs too. Like some will be totally, like let's embody the Western culture and totally forget our identity. Like they'll turn like completely different. I've seen that among Desis and Arabs. Like I mean, I've seen people like who totally change their name. Like Muhammad becomes Mo. Like they become Italian, or like they become like something else, right? I mean, like
if they own a shop,
just totally different. Yeah, I mean, totally different, right? I've seen that, but I think in general, though, among like I think most Indian Pakistani communities, they're still pretty like they may not be as open on the street, but they would. I don't think they have a problem going to their boss and saying, "Hey, dude, I need to take 5 minutes to go
Oh
pray."
yeah, I think
Right?
a lot more so than Arab, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I kind of meant because I think the
Yeah.
Arabs would be like, "No, we don't want to just do your thing privately. Like no one
Yeah.
cares."
Yeah,
You know? They don't want to rock the boat so much,
that's true.
right? Maybe it's because I mean, maybe more so now because of the whole stigma of being an Arab
Yeah.
and like Muslim. Like it's more like
Understandably so.
you know, in India and Pakistani could probably be confused for being anything. Maybe a Mexican, maybe a you know a Hindu. Well, it doesn't. I mean, they don't know, right? I mean, they could be. They don't automatically assume. I mean, even Arab Christians get confused for being quote Muslims,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, they
Sikhs,
get
I feel bad about the Sikhs, bro.
yeah, the Sikhs are the worst. Like they're like, dude, we eat pork. We're not Muslims, and they don't care. Like they still get messed up, bro. I feel bad for them.
Another
But, hey,
thing
what do
about Arab though, they're coming from like war-torn countries
Yup.
where, you know, like in some Arab countries, if you go to the masjid too much, you get picked up by mukhabarat. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you pray
But one
5
thing though,
times a day in the
Yemenis,
masjid?
they don't care. They will pray anywhere, anytime. Yemenis don't care wherever they are. I noticed about Yemenis. They don't. They'll always be traditional. They're like Somalis in a way.
Yeah,
They'll-
I love that about that region of the world, like Somalis, Yemenis. They really don't care, and it's awesome.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they'll wear a foot out in public in America. They don't care.
What's a futa?
I mean, like, in the masjid in Buffalo, like they'll wear a jambia and futa. They don't care. They're wearing a knife on the way to Jummah.
What's
You know
a
what
futa?
I mean? Like they
call
don't
it-
really
They
care.
call it as izar a futa. Is that what that is? The lungi?
Huh?
What's a futa?
Yeah, the izar. Yeah, the
Okay.
futa is a lungi, izar, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and the
Oh,
jambia
really?
is a little dagger, khanjar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some Arab call futa a towel.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The barbershops in Egypt, they call it futa sukhna. You know, get a warm towel on your face after you're done for about 2 minutes. Open up your pores.
Yeah.
So, what's happening
Yeah.
in the samurai's life? Sim told me that you had just come back from a tournament.
Yeah, I came down to Chicago to do the Grappling Industries tournament.
Oh, so you're in Chicago for that?
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Wait, his wife lives over here, or her family lives over
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he always comes.
My
down.
in-laws are here, so I come like once a month.
Okay.
So I'm like, there's a tournament in Chicago. Asfurin of Hajar. You know,
What's a hajar?
2 birds with 1 stone.
Oh,
Yeah.
Asfur and Hajar. Yeah.
we have a lot of listeners. I understand sometimes, but that's something I have to
Of course,
translate
I know,
for the
I know,
listeners.
I know, I know.
You guys like to talk about a lot of
Humam.
mukhabarat and things like that. And
Mukhabarat. Oh my God, the only word you picked up out of the whole thing,
Bro.
Mukhabarat. You're a jasus, aren't you?
So was this a gi tournament? No gi tournament? Just like
I
let us
actually
know
did
what's up.
both.
Oh, you did.
Yeah. So this was round robin. So basically,
Oh,
yeah. So you get a lot of matches. So I did 8 matches yesterday. So
What?
yeah, I'm worn out right now. Like my neck sore, my arm, like kuchi, my
and
leg.
you started grappling like recently, right? Like you just started like jujitsu, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
within a year or so.
like not 3 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
you do,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
grappling
I remember
wrestling
because
before
he's on my
that?
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on my Facebook and he started talking about it, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know. And then I realized that you just recently got into it, and you're like, wow, you never realized how awesome it is, and that's awesome, man. Because I felt like over here I was trying to find a good, like a BJJ, club out here, and I think I found one, but I've been itching to join one too. Because I mean,
Me too.
I like the regimen, I like the discipline behind it, and it's
Me
it's
too,
kind of
bro.
like, are you doing gi or no gi? Like, what are you doing? Like,
I do both.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But even yesterday,
cool.
you did both. Both of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Wow.
I had 4 matches gi, 4 matches no gi.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
tough. But I do train.
Which
more
one do you like
gi
better?
than no gi? I like gi, because okay, here's the
Oh,
thing.
wait.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, people have, you know, some people are more balanced, but
well, tell people what a gi is. A lot of people don't know this.
It's,
So-
it's a type
yeah,
of butter.
sorry.
It's a type of butter you get. It's clarified butter.
it's like a
When you
kimono.
butter them up and then you have to wrestle with butter on. That's what you gotta do.
It's like imagine like a Pakistani uncle in Dar es Salaam Masjid with the sarwal.
Yeah.
It's just thicker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the pants.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the top is like a kimono, like
Yeah.
it has collars,
Yeah.
right?
And you wrap the belt and everything.
Exactly, and you wrap a belt around it. So people usually are more type 1 or type 2 muscle fibers, right? So type 1 muscle fibers, they're very explosive. You know, you find a lot of wrestlers like this, very, very explosive, fast movements, a lot of power generated all at once, right? That's a positive. The downside to that is that they gas out quick. And then there's type 2 muscle fibers. Type 2 muscle fibers is like muscular endurance, so they won't be as explosive, but they could go for a long time. You know what I mean? They could really hang in there. So I'm mostly type 2, right? So for that reason, I like the gi more, just because when you're in no gi, you can get out of things easier. A lot of wrestlers prefer no gi just because the gi holds them back. They feel like, because they can jump around and bounce around and flip over you, and it's a lot like wrestling. You know what I mean? It's harder to submit somebody in no gi, but it's also harder to get submitted. But when you're in gi, if I got your collars, if I got your collar grip, good luck jumping around me. You know what I mean?
And I think that's
you kind of notice that in some of Gracie's fights, where he'll use the collar and grab onto it and hook onto it, and it's kind of like an extra grip. Because when you're wrestling or you're grappling, if you're without it, like sometimes you can slip, because after a while you're sweating and you become more slipperier. Oh, yeah. Whereas the gi provides like extra grip on you, so you can actually use it to hold on into a position until you can kind of find your right, your submission point. But yeah, I noticed that Gracie loved it. He loved using. He didn't want to do it without gi.
Yeah, especially when they start sweating, then it gets.
But in the no gi tournament, are you allowed to be shirtless or no? Or do you have to wear at least the tights?
I think some tournaments. I think each like tournament has like different rules.
Okay, because I know without a shirt it can be very advantageous. Right? Yeah, because someone could slip off of you.
Right.
But I think a cool way that it was explained to me and through some experience is that when you have a gi, you're able to utilize, because you could hold on to people and utilize people. You see even in tournaments, people are pulling out the gi from the belt and loosening the belt and wrap it around their arms. And you could utilize clothes, and you could utilize the what do you call pancha again in English? The pancha,
the
pant, the bottom of the
bottom
pants.
of the pants.
What are the openings for the feet?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of holes.
I'm blanking. I don't know
with the gi pant.
I forgot what it's called.
So it's important that a lot of people understand that when they're thinking about going to a MMA gym or a BJJ gym, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that they find out whether it's gi or no gi. And the difference is important because many people argue, or at least the pro-gi proponents will say that utilizing a gi is more realistic. It's more advantageous in real-life situations where you have to be in a self-defense
using
situation.
People's clothes. Rarely are people clothesless, right?
So, and it's important, unless you're competing in an MMA type of setting, or you're hoping your aspirations are to go into competitions and things like that, you may want to do no gi. And it's an important difference that a lot of people should take into account. I always try to encourage BJJ because there's no controversy around it. Yeah. There's no controversy related to striking to the face and things like that. And
it's a lot of good type of wrestling.
Even though I think I come from a Muay Thai background where a lot of people say, you're not supposed to strike to the face. I feel that this is not prize fighting. In my view, that Muay Thai, you have to learn how to strike to the face. Whether you're, you have to learn how to absorb a punch. Even if you're going into BJJ, you have to know, like in a street fight situation where you're encountered by people and you take a hit to the face, you have to know how to compose yourself and gather yourself and respond right with the counter.
Yeah.
So.
What's that quote? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly. Especially the nose, man. The first time I was punched,
a long time ago.
The first time I got punched in the nose, it was so jarring. Like your whole equilibrium is thrown off.
Oh yeah.
Like you.
Have you ever broken your nose before?
No, I haven't broken it, but
I've broken my nose before, and when that happens to you, it's impossible to recover sometimes. Like unless you're panicked, like you don't know what to do. Like you're like, oh my god, I can't breathe through my nose. Like you don't know what happens, and you're so right in this. Like when the first time you get hit, it's like a shell shock. Like you don't know, like you don't even know what's happening, what's going on around you. Like that impact that you feel. I remember the first time I got hit bad in the face. I think I got hit with some rod in the back of my head, and it was just I did no idea what was going on. Like you just don't know, and like nothing can prepare you for that. Nothing at all.
How many people said Donald Cerrone threw the fight by losing?
He did not throw that.
He lost it. He fractured his orbital bone. His orbital bone's right here.
You know, he's
Right
missing
around
like
here.
10 feet of his intestines too, right? He got in like an
Oh my
ATV
God,
accident.
what?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
mind you,
really?
And
dude.
he's broken his feet and like
He's a soldier, and
Dude,
Yeah.
people
I
don't
just
realize
laugh.
Conor McGregor is strong for his size, and he's deadly,
yeah.
dude. They don't.
I
I mean,
honestly didn't think it was going to end like that, bro.
and
didn't
I
think
was
it gonna
telling
end like that.
Amr, dude, that before the fight, I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, there's no chance that Donald Cerrone is going to even put up a fight against
I had
him.
no idea. Dude, I thought there was
I
going to be
mean,
a decent fight, bro.
all right, let's
Yeah,
not
but-
get too much into the fight, but
Yeah. So the point
yeah,
is that it generally, when what Sim is saying is that, I mean, I agree 100% that, you know, there's a certain practicality behind jiu-jitsu, like wrestling, because, you know, that it actually, aside from just being in a street fight, but overall health and wellness and discipline, and obviously being a sunnah, right? It's part of wrestling, right? You
Yeah.
should be involved in wrestling, and also the endurance and the cardio that goes involved with it, that is involved with wrestling. It's like no other, right? I mean, if you can wrestle for like 30 seconds straight as a first timer, that's a big thing, right? And
Yeah.
people don't realize how tiring that is.
honestly though, more than the physical aspect, I think the best thing that you can get from jiu-jitsu is the mental toughness. Because it takes a lot to get smashed every day for 6 months and keep going. You know
Yeah,
what I
no.
mean?
So one thing I was interested in, you started within 3 to 6 months. You started like
3 months ago,
3
yeah,
months.
yeah.
So how do you have that transition? And the transition is a lot of people think that they have to train for about a year to get into a tournament, and you started in 3 months. Like, make sense of
I
that.
actually
for
did
us.
my first tournament like 29 hours of training only.
kiddo.
Yeah. It was in Wisconsin. So my coach is awesome, right? He's like a great coach, great mentor, great leader, and he gives the best advice ever. So like he basically said, you know, he always encourages us to compete. And so I was like, what if I've only been training for 29 hours because I log my hours, you know, and I want to track my progress. And he's like, listen, don't even worry about it. I don't care how you do the first 100 matches.
Wow.
Because you're going against people who wrestled. Now, like most of the people that compete in jiu-jitsu that early, they wrestled in high school. Now, let's say like you wrestled in high school for, let's say 2 years, minimum. Each year is like 40 matches. That's 80 matches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And competing in combat sports in the gym versus on a mat at a competition is like something else entirely.
So did you like wrestle in high school or do anything?
No,
like
not at
judo
all.
or nothing?
No, yeah.
So this is your first time. What about like other hand-to-hand combat? Or
I did Muay Thai for a few years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I still do some Muay Thai, but my focus is more in jiu-jitsu now.
Nice.
Yeah. So he was like, I don't care what happens the first 100 times. Just get out there, get used to that adrenaline, get used to that realness.
Yeah.
And like, I can't judge how you do. So I actually went to the Fuji tournament in Wisconsin, and I went 1 for 3. So I was like, whoa.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and all the guys I went against had stripes on their belts, and I'm sitting there like,
Wow. And you got a good frame too, though. You got a slender, long frame. That's awesome.
well, that's honestly what I love about jiu-jitsu is that anyone who comes in there,
Yeah.
their body type, whatever it is, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
You know what I
it
mean?
is.
If you're tall and lanky, your guard is going to be awesome, but
Yep.
your top pressure and mount and side control are going to suck, and you're going to be an armbar target.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I
But-
guess even competing early, that makes a little sense because I know some people, they train for like a year and then they compete.
Yeah.
And they get
They don't
really,
do as
really
well.
depressed because
Yeah.
they're so used to doing good in the gym. And then when they compete, there's adrenaline dump, there's all that stuff, and they get really nervous. But if you start that process young,
adrenaline dump is nuts.
yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
After my first match, because I was just I pulled guard and just held him in there the whole time. I was not trying to let go. I was too scared to do anything else.
Yeah. But the experience of matches, you have it at such a young,
Yeah.
within, like you said, 29
Early
hours.
in the- early
so
in the
then the
process.
jitters are gone after like 10 matches probably. You know what I'm saying? And then you start building your experience
like
too. Yeah, yeah.
this tournament, the jitters were way less. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was still adrenaline dump, but I didn't go in there like hyperventilating.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And my arms, my first tournament, my arms were like throbbing after the first match. I couldn't feel them because of the grips.
That's what you have to. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
that whole new school now about working your grip strength and all that kind
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
grip strength is
right?
so important. But this time,
Hey,
I did all right.
Morty.
sorry, Amr. You know who mom reminds me of, like, as a fighter, like as a build, like, you know the guy Luis Pena, the guy with the jiu-jitsu guy. He reminds me of him.
Yeah. Do you watch
You,
UFC pretty
the
much or no?
style, like
I
the.
watch UFC.
Do you watch
but I
UFC at
haven't
all?
heard of Pena.
Oh, you gotta watch. I mean, dude, he is amazing. I mean, he's so athletic as a jiu-jitsu, like as a practitioner. He's really crazy. He's tall,
Yeah.
he's lanky,
You know
but
who I
he's
like?
dangerous.
I like Brian Ortega.
Brian Ortega's
Oh,
good.
Brian
I like
Ortega,
it.
yeah,
Check
dude. I
that
think
out.
Brian Ortega is one that could possibly challenge Habib. Like, I really think he could.
He has to better his striking. The thing with him is he
Yeah.
could take hits, bro.
Yeah.
Who was that fight
Yeah.
he was against? Was he
Have
got
you seen
Titus
his
or?
flying triangle?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
He's a
Oh,
jiu-jitsu,
yeah.
jiu-jitsu guy. Like I think he's still
Yeah.
working on the MMA aspect of it, the
Yeah.
fighting aspect. But his jiu-jitsu is amazing.
What's his name? Gordon Ryan
Oh.
too.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan, he's the leg locker.
Yeah. He's from that school, man. He's from
John Danaher.
John Danaher, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, that whole leg lock thing is amazing. He did, but unfortunately, you know, Ortega lost to Max Holloway. You know, but other than that, though, he was just killing everybody. Frankie Edgar,
But Max Holloway,
he
remember-
fought Clay
Max
Guida.
Holloway
Dude, he
was
fought
right.
Clay Guida too. He's
Yeah.
an old school guy, but he beat him too. I mean, a lot of no-namers, but he's building his rapport right now, right?
Yeah.
But I think he could do it. I mean, I think he has a chance.
But
He's
to fight
really
Max
good.
Holloway, I mean, you've really,
Yeah.
you've definitely hit a good level, man. That's
Yeah.
Humam, how concerned were you regarding being so close to people with a scare like the coronavirus being around?
In jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, in jiu-jitsu, you were awfully close to these people. I'm sure you're. Are you
I think if they have the coronavirus, they're not going to be competing that day, so.
well,
no. What he's saying is a
there's
lot of times
incubation.
people they don't know they have the coronavirus. They just think they have the flu.
there's an incubation period of 3 to 5 days before the symptoms appear. My man Mort.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really think.
Yeah,
People say
schmoogity boogity.
And
I don't
Whatever.
think anybody really has
Is
it.
it,
It's
are you
it's
guys
media
worried?
hype, dude.
I'm not
Do you
worried
guys
right
need
now.
consoling?
I'm not worried.
We're
China's
friends.
worried.
China's sealed off all their cities.
Dude, they
I
sealed
didn't
off
see
over
any
20
Chinese guys
cities.
there. So.
They didn't see.
Well, Wuhan is quarantined, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I
so
go-
Sim,
I
are
go to
you
the-
are you legitimately worried about this?
Bro, my gym has a lot of Asians over there.
Oh my god!
No, look. I'm not
Wow.
racist. I'm not racist. I'm
Hey,
just
you're not
wondering-
racist. You're Asian too, bro.
But the thing is,
You're
it's
from Asia.
We're talking about Asians from China, mainland China, and you just wonder if they traveled there. That's all you wonder. Like, should
Yeah,
I?
especially if they're wearing the mask.
Yes.
Yeah, I was walking in my school. I was going to get coffee, and like there was these two Chinese girls wearing the mask, and I'm like,
Oh, darn it.
did you just
Yeah,
come
bro.
from
No,
China?
honestly, that kind of
can we
freaks
have a
me out.
can we
dude.
have
I
a
was
mor-
in
can
New
we
York
have a
City.
moratorium on racism for this when there's like a public health crisis?
I see what you're saying. Moratorium. Let's do one of those.
a moratorium.
Moratorium, like moratorium, like what do you?
And Mort can be as racist as he wants.
Can we have a little bit of break? When at least
Yeah, but it could backfire on you, dude.
Well, one
like
of our
what
team
about
members-
the Middle East respiratory disease. I mean, that we were gotten crapped on, dude.
that it started from Saudi Arabia actually. So
Hey, stop! Enough, dude. Listen.
What
Are you- wait, let me tell you something.
Yeah,
Okay.
Corona originally was detected in Saudi Arabia a few years ago. I don't know how many years ago, but it was
No,
called
hold on.
MERS.
Corona. Wait, let's talk about this because now we're spreading misinformation.
Yeah, I
Okay.
started in
From
Mexico,
Saudis,
okay?
Yeah. No, first of all, this is the coronavirus. The name of it is a very generalized name for this type of virus, where the SARS, MERS, this is all the same family of disease. And if you know, SARS came out of China first.
Are you talking
Okay.
about
The
MRSA?
reason why they call it corona is because if you look at the virus underneath, like the actual virus under the microscope, it looks like a halo with like, you know, spikes around it. So corona is Latin for crown.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you don't get it from drinking Coronas, from meeting Mexicans and drinking Corona. It's actual.
guys are
It actually looks like a crown. That's why they call it. So yeah, it's a disease. It's some kind of respiratory disease. It comes out. It's a flu-like symptom, like the bird flu, avian flu, all this stuff. It's the same family of viruses that come out. So is it? Did it happen in Saudi Arabia? Yes, but then again, Saudi Arabia has a place where there's like, you know, 4 or 5 million Hujjaj that come every year,
Yeah.
plus the people make Umrah. So it generally came from the Eastern world, dude, where they have these wet markets where people are eating bat and rats and snakes.
Wait. We're not supposed to say that anymore. I don't know if you saw some of our friends like Ismail Roy or recently got hammered on Twitter for saying, you know, you eat bat and you eat these weird animals, you're going to get weird diseases. And he's getting killed by the SJW crowd
Screw them.
for being racist.
Yeah, I don't.
I hope they eat the bats then. Tell them to go eat the bats.
Yeah.
Go eat a bat soup. What do I
saw
care?
some
But
post that
I'm not
was
going to eat
like,
it.
we're Muslims, we're not supposed to make fun of other people's diets. It's like, I'm not making fun of it, but you probably shouldn't eat a bat.
Whether you're in China or you're in West Africa or where's the Sierra Leone where they eat
Freetown,
the
monkeys.
What's called? It's called bushmeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Bushmeat.
Yeah, monkey meat.
Bushmeat is meat from the jungle. It's bats, monkeys, rats, snakes.
Isn't that,
But wait,
meat that
can't
is
we
typical-
say Alhamdulillah that we don't eat that? I mean, that we have Islam that give it to tell us what to eat. I mean, look, by the way,
Alhamdulillah, we do, but we
Isma-
shouldn't be getting killed online for saying that. Hey, you eat this crazy meat. This
isn't
meat.
that-
that's
Well,
not
I hope
meat.
Ismail's listening because here's a gem. Okay, you're not the first to think of that. Ibn Khaldun in his Muqaddimah wrote that people who eat the food they become like that kind of food. And he said, oh look, for example, he gives the example of the Arabs. He says, oh, the Arabs used to eat the camel meat,
So
and
they
so
look
they
like
ended up
camels.
having like ghira for women and culture and having haya. He says that people of France, they used to eat khanzir, so they become like the youth. Right? They just he said that. No, I'm serious.
I thought he was talking-
writes this as muqaddimah.
Mort,
right?
When I read the Bukhari, I thought he was talking about them actually physically, their physical features.
No, he
resembling
means
them.
like the attributes of
Oh, I'm
personality-wise.
I'm like, this is Ibn Khaldun's a little bit racist. Low-key racist.
No, he's talking about the
Back then, that
character
type
personality.
of talk
Like,
wasn't even considered racist.
It wasn't. But
Back then.
when you examine under this the current
Because
social
people
media
were after
climate,
facts, bro. They're like, we're trying to come up with facts. We don't care who you are, what you are. We're just telling you what research we've done. Now, I mean,
and by the way,
totally
it has
different
nothing
now.
to do with the individual
Yeah.
or the color of their skin. It's about what they're eating.
So how
he's
did
talking
AIDS
about
come
if they stop eating this meat,
AIDS
they won't
came
become
about
like that.
from monkeys.
they ate monkeys, right?
They're not sure. Some people even speculate that people had intercourse with monkeys.
Yeah.
That there was some kind of sexually transmitted disease that happened with someone who wanted.
See, what I heard, I was in a halaqa, and the speaker was talking about the hadith that warned humans, like, hey, if you do this kind of thing, then this will happen. And
Yeah.
and one of the statements was, as zina spreads, so will disease.
Right.
And so he was telling us a story of like railroad workers in the Congo,
Yeah.
or something like that. I don't know if it was Congo or somewhere else, but basically they would these companies would get prostitutes for these workers.
Yeah.
And so they would sleep with all these prostitutes at night and work during the day, and they were in the jungle, so they would hunt monkeys and eat them.
Yeah.
And so one guy, and it was like 1 in every 100 monkeys or something like that had it. And so they contracted it and they spread it to all these prostitutes, and that's pretty much how it spread.
Yeah. So when you hear China struggling with this type of illness, but that China is also someone who's persecuting Muslims, right? I'll just be very.
That's the next thing I was going to talk about.
Very, very blunt about it. They're persecuting Muslims left and right throughout the Xinjiang province, the Western Chinese province that's mainly of Turkic origin, and they're putting them in concentration camps that
Harvesting their organs, 200
re-educating them,
3
raping
million
them
in concentration camps now altogether.
So
speaking of that,
do you feel a
destroyed.
little bit of what? They're
Payback?
getting a little bit of what they deserve. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending something to them.
So speaking
how
of
do
that,
you-
did you see what Yasser Qadi
I
wrote
was just going to mention
about
that.
that?
Too. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, about
Go
he's
ahead,
like,
go ahead,
well,
explain
it's I think it violates human principles to say that Allah is punishing them for what they did, like to the Uyghurs or Muslims or. I don't know. I can, the way I look at it is like this, dude. Allahu Alam. Sometimes you don't know.
We don't
It
know
could be
for
a
sure. We
punishment.
can't say for
Yeah.
100% fact.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know, but to say it's not for sure, like that's not what would happen to them. Allahu Alam too. You can't say anything definitively. You can't say it is or it's not. Right? You don't know.
But
It
we
could be
know
a punishment
this
to them.
much: the Chinese government. I'm not saying all the Chinese people, but the Chinese government, clear cut, without a doubt, is an enemy of Islam and Muslims. We
Yeah,
know
but
that.
wait, Sim, here's the thing. People will say then, oh, well, why would you say that the Chinese people are suffering because their government did it? And then this goes back to the story in the Quran where it talks about the mala, like people who are in charge. People in charge who make bad decisions can make a whole nation suffer.
Yes.
course.
Right?
Yeah.
So
But
it could
there's
be that-
also the well-known established principle that the government that is placed over you is a reflection over you. That is a reflection of you, of your people. That you are in this condition, and your government is a reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
So that there is that as well. That,
I think there's a few things that have to be unpacked. Look, I think what Yasser Qadhi is trying to do and other scholars, you're right. You can't say Allah is punishing them for sure. That's one thing because we don't know. The other thing is people don't want Muslims to get involved with or even cater to the idea of becoming what's the word I'm looking for? The people who are okay with a certain type of genocide.
Yeah.
Because
Like malicious?
Yeah, because if something goes wrong, it's kind of like a genocidal, it's like pre-genocidal ideas of, okay, then those people should be wiped out too because they're doing this. So it can kind of lead to that, right? I don't agree with that 100%. I know where it's coming from.
So you're saying you're trying to keep them balanced, right? Not so much because you can't be extreme in your hatred for people and then let that say that you start rejoicing in their pain and suffering, right? Rather than doing that, you probably say, "May Allah protect us from that kind of evil," right?
Like,
but I get what you're saying. It's not
this. Like a very simple-minded idea of it is like some people saying, and see people joke around about it, all these people died, we can use it, there's overpopulation, that kind of idea, that kind of mindset.
That's stupid.
Well,
one thing I did notice
was no, of course, no.
But one thing which was cool though, I don't know if Sheikh Ahmed says there's never a coincidence, but China recently had banned niqab, right? Yeah. And like now, they're all wearing the face mask because they gotta protect themselves. So even involuntarily, they're wearing the face mask now, right? Like I mean, so that the irony, right? You gotta appreciate it. Even the men are wearing niqab now.
They did ban the niqab, right?
No, so guys, but I think the other side of the argument is this: there's multiple hadith of Rasulullah saying, if people do this, Allah. يُصَلِّتْ عَلَيْهِمْ كَذَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unleash on them this type of punishment. If these people do this, they'll unleash this type of punishment. Even Umar radiallahu anhu, when earthquakes happen, he said, if an earthquake happens again, I'm leaving you because I'm afraid that that's Allah's punishment. Allah punishes people with earthquakes, right? So we have to find a balance. One thing that we know is that everything that happened with Muslims, I talked to some Uyghur Muslims, there's some in Chicago too. And when you're under torture and torment and persecution at that level, let's just remind people, over 5,000 mosques destroyed in China. How many Muslims are in China? Like 20 million altogether? 15 to 20 million?
I can't. I don't know.
I don't know. I think
put
it's
it this way: about
that,
3 million altogether, right? World Health Organization. There's Save. What is it? What's the name of the website? SaveUighur.com or .org.
Yeah.
Which they said there's 3 million Muslims in concentration camps altogether. 3 million. Right? Organ harvesting, selling organs. I don't know how much.
But you know what's crazy about that, Amr? Here's a check. This is a crazy thing. You're talking about organ harvesting. You know what they're alleging? They're alleging that Khalij countries are buying organs from them because they're saying, it's
we want halal
halal like an organ because it's not from a pork eater or like it's just like a pure kind of like an organ for them. So they're saying, okay, we'll buy these organs from you. I don't know how true that is. They came out by
market. They're a part of the black market. They're selling underground. They're selling illegally. They're selling to countries.
That is bonkers.
It's insane, bro. The world is a crazy place. But now, take all that into consideration. Do you know what some of the Uyghur Muslims told me? They said when they be torturing us, the only dua that we be coming out of our heart is, oh Allah, send plagues upon them. Oh Allah, send earthquakes upon them. Who knows that those duas going to get accepted? I'm not going to say for sure it's Allah's punishment, but I'm not surprised if it is.
Yeah.
That's all we got to say, right? Look, Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah in his book Ad-Da' wa Dawa, Spiritual Disease and Its Cure, he has a whole entire list. His book is almost an entire list. After he talks about Surah Al-Fatiha, he talks about what sins we do and how it affects our lives. This sin affects the rain, the quality of the rain. This sin of a people affects the quality of the food that they grow in their ground. This sin affects the relationships of the people, whether they're in that vicinity or they're directly doing it, right? All these things we have to understand. It's Allah's world, right? Allah put us here as a test. Whatever we do is going to affect our relationship with Allah, and He will, if He wants, subhanahu wa ta'ala, unleash on those people who are oppressive until they straighten out, right? And look, monetarily, what's happening in China because of this, right? I saw a vlog on YouTube where this guy, he's living in Wuhan, and when he goes out, he puts on these goggles because it can be contracted through the eyes. He has 2 masks on, right? He's wearing this big winter jacket. He's wearing these big gloves. He, because you got to press elevator buttons and all that kind of stuff, and he makes sure he's almost airtight. He's wearing boots, and then he's like, this place. He's walking around in the city. And he's like, this place is usually really crowded and packed. There's nobody there, and he's got the video and everything. He goes to the supermarket. He gets his stuff, and he has to do this every time he goes out. He comes back home, and he has to throw everything and sanitize it in the washing, his clothing and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very, very crazy situation, and I personally believe that, from the hadith of Rasulullah where he says, "Man adali waliyan," whoever becomes an enemy or shows enmity to one of my walis, I wage war against him, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, waging war comes in many different forms. And, so to write it off completely and to say that it's not a punishment from Allah is wrong. And to say for sure, I know for sure 100% is completely wrong. You have to choose the middle path, right?
Sheikh, we also know that towards the end of the times, there's going to be a lot of plagues and things like famine occurring. And we know that we can't discount that this is from Allah, and
of course,
at least, and it bothers me that people just so quick to run on social media and say that, hey, don't say it's from Allah. Like, wait, hold on a second. You don't know whether it is or not.
Well, number one, just to clarify, until you go, everything happens with the permission of Allah.
Yes,
everything does. Now, to call it a punishment,
no coincidence.
To call it a punishment, that's a whole different thing, right? Yeah. But is it a source of punishment? We see it as a punishment on the people, right? Yeah. And any type of inconvenience, linguistically, lexically, is a type of punishment, right? Even traveling is a type of punishment, right? But to say that Allah is, narrowing them out, and I know for sure that this is because of what they done, that's where we just say, Wallahu a'lam. Right.
Yeah. Amr, I was just looking for the hadith and I found it, and it says here, this is the hadith I was looking for. It says from Umar bin Khattab. It says, إذا أراد الله بقوم عذاب أصاب العذاب من كان فيهم ثم بعث على عملهم. So Allah punishes a whole people, and the punishment affects all of them collectively.
Yep.
And then Allah raises them according to what their actions were. So, and this is mutafaqun alayh, it's agreed upon by Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari, and so this is a belief of Ahl Sunnah that people can be punished for the sins of people who are in charge of them, right? And for them being silent on matters, right? Because we know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his silence was approval in matters, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example for us. So if someone sees this kind of action and behavior and they're content with what's happening, then that's almost as good as being part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Another narration of the hadith is Aisha. Excuse me. Aisha radiallahu anha asked Rasulullah after saying that everyone is taken in the community if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes them, and she asked, Ya Rasulullah, what about the good amongst them? Because they were taken too. Or they'll be taken. And he says they'll be raised upon their deeds, right? Maybe they didn't directly engage in it, but the whole society is affected by it, right? And that's just Allah's rules, man. That's all there is to it.
And so I think the main takeaway from that is that, so even if we say, how can you be, it's so inhumane to kill a whole population of people, we say that Allah is not condemning them to the hellfire. They will still be raised upon what they believe and what they did. Yeah. So everybody will be justly judged according to what their behavior was and their actions were. So no one is saying we're condemning them to some kind of eternal damnation, right? We don't know that. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who's in control of everything, and he's going to make the final decision. But again, this just goes to show that people who, as Sim mentioned earlier, leaders of people are a reflection of their own character and their desires. So if these leaders are present and they're content with these leaders, then it's very possible that Allah can send azab, on them they will be affected by. So
Allah protect us from Anya.
Who knows? Yeah. So it could be, I don't know, Allahu Alam, but at the end of the day, I just don't want to be caught up with people with this stuff. So if you're treating them or you're hanging out with them or you want to be in a humanitarian mission, stay away from me. Right? Don't meet me. Don't talk to me. Don't send me any messages. I don't know you.
So the second point or controversy in social media was how upset should Muslims be about Kobe Bryant's passing? And I think there was a lot of back and forth with the various Muslims. First and foremost,
Rahmatullah
Morty.
Some people are saying that, bro. They have a whole. Did you see the flyer in Arabic where they had like a khatam for him?
Dude, I get
Like
that.
they
Shut
do-
up! No, I thought you were exaggerating for a second.
No, I'm serious. I've seen one where they like
More.
some masjid had like some kind of outreach where like they had like some kind of khatam for him.
More, I get that.
Like, I don't know.
That's wrong, right? But on the other side of the spectrum, you have people that are like, "Oh, who cares about Kobe Bryant? You got thousands of Muslims dying all over the world." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
We have to find a balance in between. We
It's-
got to
it's-
find a middle path.
You have
right?
to recognize that this person is an icon in American culture.
it's not just that he's an icon. Yeah, you're right that he's an icon, but the sudden passing of him, when I found out about it, I was shocked, and it wasn't like oh, I'm crying in a pillow or anything. It was just like you sat back, you're like, whoa, he's just out of left field.
Like, I'd expect Magic Johnson. He was at AIDS
Yeah.
for like 30 years.
That's what I was talking about. Oh my god! I was like, oh my god, dude! 20 years ago, I heard Matt Jansen had AIDS and he was gonna die, right? And then he lives longer than Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
like
man.
what the hell?
So I'll tell you why this is weird for you. We had a WhatsApp.
By the way,
chat about this.
for our viewers, we have Kobe's shoes that have always been sitting on this table.
Because it matches the Mad Mamluke's colors.
Not
So-
because we're his fans, okay? So we're not putting on this false sense of sympathy or what's
No,
it
but
called?
we have to look
Yeah.
at everything through an Islamic lens, right?
Yeah.
So a day before this, it was last Saturday. Omer Hasib was here as a guest.
Yes.
You and me, and we started talking about Kobe Bryant. None of this ever happened. Do you remember
All
that?
right.
We were talking about Kobe Bryant. Remember, he died on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So 12 hours before all of this, me and Omer Hasib, he's telling me about the video Dear Basketball. He's telling me, because he was a Kobe fan. He's a total basketball. He's really into basketball. And he was talking about how he got the name Black Mamba, his allegations, and how he fought it. How he knows 5 languages. And then it actually sparked my interest, because I was telling him, I was like, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. The last full game of basketball I ever saw was when Jordan, Rodman, and Pippen were on the same team. I never watched really a full game after that. I'd watch the Warriors here and there once in a while. But I was like, okay, this is really interesting about him. Plus, he really, really tried to emulate Michael Jordan. The way he talked. If you see his interviews,
Oh, yeah,
he
without a
acts
doubt.
exactly like he's got this automatic computing of perfecting the imitation of Michael Jordan
There's
on
like
the court.
there's like
On
this
the court,
video where
yeah.
it like shows Jordan
parts,
doing a
yeah.
move, and then like towards the end of the move,
And
it'll
sticking out the
transfer to
tongue, but
Kobe.
even the way he talks and the way he reacts, it's crazy how humans could do that. But that's a whole different story. So now Saturday, we're talking about all this, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I was like, all right, I gotta watch this after I go home. I was like, I gotta watch Dear Basketball. It was really cool. It's only like a 3-minute. He got a what is it? A Golden Globe award for animation. Is it Golden Globe or Emmy? I forgot what it's called.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, he started an animation company, so that was his first animation he did. Yeah.
So I saw the guy who drew it and the guy who did the animations, how he had to get into basketball. He never did it. It was really cool, And I remember Omer was saying, man, if you're a basketball fan, you'll probably shed a tear because of what he had to go through and everything to be. And you know what it reminded you? One of the cool thing about that animation was, here's a little bit of a spoiler, is do you remember when we used to all have those Nerf hoops? Like I have 3 brothers, right? We used to have the Nerf hoops like on our door, and if you lose the Nerf ball, what did you used to do? Roll up a ball of sock and play with it. And it showed him doing that too in that animation. And I was like, wow. And shows him in his bed. He's a 6-year-old kid and he got to. So it kind of like, because we all grew up playing basketball. We
You
love
say
basketball.
Kobe as you shoot.
Yeah, dude.
Look,
but I was kind of before the Kobe era, right? I'm old,
yeah.
But so I'm saying all this is because now the next morning while we talked about all this, that same night, Kobe Bryant gets surpassed by LeBron James in his hometown and gets congratulated by him because he surpassed his quote-unquote greatness, right? And it is a type of greatness on the basketball court, right? The next morning after he demonstrates his greatness and, who surpassed him, he dies.
Yeah.
Right? And OZ said something to me really beautiful, bro.
Our friend OZ.
Umar Zaman. Really deep dude, bro. He's like, you know what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show somebody greatness, but he'll actually take them away too to show them that Allah's even greater, right?
Yeah.
Wow. He said something to that extent, right? And I totally jived because we were talking about it the night before. And like I was telling people, I was even telling my wife, but I couldn't like express to her, like, it's not about, look, Rasulullah felt sorrow for any soul that died, right?
Yeah.
Any soul, even the people that that were his enemies because he didn't want them to go to Jahannam, right? And so he was sad, number one, that the person couldn't have the blessing of Iman. Like, imagine somebody being born their whole life and they don't know what their purpose in his life is. Right? And they don't know who their maker is. Like, I can't fathom what that feels like and how perturbed you are for your whole life and how you have this void inside of you. Like, how does somebody, like, we should actually feel bad for people that don't know their creator.
Exactly. You know what it is? In areas that are very heavily concentrated as Muslims, and I was totally guilty of this before I started like interacting with others, because I grew up in Minneapolis. You know what I mean? It's all I knew was the masjid, home, the community, whatever.
Yeah.
You get into this mindset of like, these Muslims are my brothers and sisters and everybody else is just whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then I started like interacting like through jiu-jitsu with like all these Americans and even like right wingers and whatever. I just started interacting with them and like it humanized them. You know what I mean? So when I see Kobe, it's actually sad. Like, we should be sad that he died before accepting Islam, because I always thought for some reason that he would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He always gave off that vibe.
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought of him as a jerk. I didn't like him at all.
He was a
I was a
jerk.
Lakers. I was a
really
Lakers fan. I didn't like him. I thought
he's very educated,
he was-
knows like five languages, right? Five languages.
I also felt bad that he has a daughter with him too.
Well,
man, you know?
that's
You know what though? I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, especially young like Muslims when they're younger, and when we idolize some people, like some people were like, "Oh, that person's gonna be a Muslim." Like,
That's
we always
true.
think that, right? Like, we always think, "Oh, he's gonna be a Muslim. Oh, he said something positive about Islam. Look, he had the Quran."
No, but
So I get that part. You know
But
what I
like
mean?
some
But the
people,
thing is,
some people, you're like, no way. Like Jordan. You know what I mean? Jordan's kind of like cocky.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of us will thought when we were growing up, like, man, he's gonna be a Muslim, bro.
No,
Like,
I
he's
never
gonna-
thought that, bro.
you know,
Get
I
out,
never thought
man.
that.
I never thought Jordan was gonna be.
I
He's
did. You know
still
why? Because you were
alive,
with
so
Craig
he might.
Hodges.
Come
Remember,
on,
he was playing with
but
them. He
You
didn't have
know,
alcohol
there's a
on
lot
him.
of diaries that came out about him, how he used to make fun of Craig Hodges for being Muslim. You know that, right?
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't watch the whole. Okay, well, but at that
Yeah.
time,
Now
I didn't
we
know
hate
that.
now our Wallah
I didn't know
has
at that
kicked in.
time.
Now
Amir.
our
What are
Wallah
you
is
talking
kicked
about?
in. Now our Wallah is
Yeah.
kicked in Simpson.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I'm
Shaq
saying
is
after
Muslim,
no.
though.
After that, after reading it, you develop like, obviously, okay, he's not. But when you're
Connection,
younger and you see these
Yeah.
things, you're like,
No,
oh
I-
yeah, he might.
Dude,
he
more-
I
might
see
be
what
one.
you're saying.
More, Shaq is actually Muslim, like legit.
Yeah,
Like,
he is. He went to
not a
pray. He did
5%.
Hajj
Yeah,
actually.
he went to Hajj. So that's a
Yeah,
connection
yeah.
with Kobe right
That's
there.
a connection. Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hakeem
Like,
Olajuwon. Yeah.
yeah,
there's a
man.
lot.
Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones, and I think what set the tone was for our Muhammad Ali rahmatullah alayh. He was the one who set it in motion. He practiced his skill, his profession to the best, and everyone in the world knew his name. There are two names who were really known throughout the world from America. It was Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that Michael Jordan would also accept Islam. Maybe inshallah it's not over, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
his
but I mean,
his-
one thing I want to say though is this. Now, I think from a human aspect, you
Yeah.
feel bad that that Kobe Bryant died, right? I mean,
Yeah.
being 41 years old, he's a few years older than some of us. I mean, I know me, and it's like, man,
he had a wife
that's
and kid.
life is
Like a
yeah.
few kids. Yeah.
Allahu A'lam. Like, I mean,
Sad.
life, death is the only thing guaranteed to you.
Yeah, man.
Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. You're gonna see that death, and that I feel, even to be honest, sadder for the 13-year-old, who didn't experience any life, nothing at all, right? You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm thinking like, you know what? This girl was so attached to her father. She lived with him and she died with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, could she have lived without her dad? I don't know. But here's what I will say. And I always find this to be a little bit problematic. When people die prematurely or like randomly, somehow people tend to just forget anything, like any of the shortcomings or wrongs, and they kind of overlook everything like they might have been shady. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do that, but you notice that, like, how everyone's like, oh my God, what a great guy. Burj Al Arab just put or Burj Al Khalifa just put a whole, picture of Kobe on there with his daughter. I mean, dude, what Arab knew about, and the Khaliji guy knew about Kobe Bryant. I mean, they probably know a little bit. He played basketball, but is it really that big of a deal, right? But all of a sudden, everybody's affected by it, right? Because he's so young, haram. He died so young, look, let's embrace this, this sob culture, to me, it feels fake. If I didn't know you in real, when I was alive and you didn't know me, I didn't talk to you, don't mourn me. You know, I don't really care for you. I'm dead. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it, right?
Yeah,
But then it's fake, right? Yeah, I just feel like it's fake about it. You know, I don't know. Just to me, I feel like I hate that fake culture.
Morty, there is definitely a culture online of begging sympathy from people. People are so addicted to wanting sympathy. I'm mourning Kobe. Like, you don't know a single thing. You can't even mention the number on his basketball uniform. Yeah. You know, I'm mourning him. Everyone come give me likes. It's so heartbreaking. Like, get out of here. You don't know anything about Kobe, but you just there's this,
I heard somebody arguing that his jersey was 82.
I'm telling you,
like, what?
I'm not. This is not about those people who are mourning Kobe. This is a problem. There's a problem online.
Sorry, bro. Sorry, go ahead.
There's this culture of people, okay, and it's not about the Kobe. It's just Kobe just brings out these people, but attention-seeking people who are seeking sympathy. You know, this victim. I'm a victim. I need attention. People come console me. I'm really heartbroken, and they're begging for likes.
We get the point, bro.
No, this is...
There's like 20 descriptive words. That's pretty interesting, bro.
No, these people drive me nuts because they don't really care about anything. They only care about themselves. It's like a disease that's in their heart.
You know what? It's very narcissistic. Look at me. Look how sad I am. Look how much I care about people. Look how altruistic I am. You know, look at my good character and my empathetic nature. Look at me. Woe to me, right? I'm mourning, right? And I feel like looking at these people and saying, well, you don't know nothing about Kobe. Like, you don't know anything about you don't know how many games he played. You don't know how long. You don't even know how old he was, right? You don't know when he was born.
A lot of people are broken, bro. They have a void inside.
No, but what I'm saying though, it's not just these kinds of people. I've noticed this also happens in real life. Like when someone dies, even in the community, they'll be like, "Oh my God, he's such a great person. I wish we spent more time together." Well, when people are alive, you don't care. You were backbiting him. You were talking about him, right? And then now all of a sudden when he dies, now he's the best person in the world to you. Stop lying. You know what I mean? Why don't you say that when he's alive and treat him good when he's alive, not when he's dead? True, man. That's why? But half of these people were like, "Oh, Kobe's a rapist" before he was alive, and then now they're like, "Oh no, Kobe was a great guy." Yeah. What?
Let me say this though. So there's two types of love, right? You have the type of love which is the human love, and anyone who strives for perfection, and we see some elements of perfection in people, we end up falling in love with them, right? We want to kind of be like them, we want to emulate them, and that's the human love. There's nothing wrong with feeling bad about somebody who passed away, because that's a part of our fitrah, right? I know there's things going on online. Now the other side is that yes, if you're feeling like that about Kobe Bryant or whoever celebrity, whoever athlete, there is some legitimacy, and it's a very valid point, but we have to understand that the crowd that we're speaking to, right? For somebody to say that, you don't talk like this about the Muslims when everybody's been talking about the Muslims of what's happening to them, right? Everybody realizes that what's happening in China, what's happening in Kashmir. I mean, the list is so long now, right? And that's a whole different level of oppression that's happening. And so we keep those people in our dua, right? And I think there's obviously some people that don't like that community leaders are talking about Kobe Bryant. I kind of get that too. I kind of get that, but at least I know that the some scholars are trying to utilize that as a reminder, right? Yeah. And I think that's why it was a shock to a majority of people, is because, and I'm talking about just non-Muslims and Muslims alike, is that when we see somebody that achieves such greatness, we can't imagine them dying like we die because they're so different than us. Right? Like, oh, that's going to happen to them too. Like, we can't, would anyone like actually think about day and night or once a week, oh, Kobe's going to die one day, Michael Jordan's going to die, Muhammad Ali's going to die. Nobody really thinks like that because they're a whole different species of human beings, right? Yeah. So we actually put them in a complete different category. So when something happens to them, humanly, we have this weird shock, which is fine, dude. There's nothing wrong with that. You just shouldn't have, you shouldn't be extreme in it. Start crying and wailing and mourning. And
there's definitely a problem on the lowest common denominator of society, where the lowest meathead who's really crying about, we're talking about Muslims right now, who are crying about Kobe, but they haven't ever had any kind of sense of loyalty towards their Muslim brothers and sisters abroad. There is a problem within that.
There is,
but
for sure.
I have a problem with the people who are criticizing the sympathy and outpouring for Kobe, utilizing that. Yes, there is a problem within the lowest common denominator of Muslims who don't pay enough attention to the atrocities of Burma, Xinjiang, Kashmir, Palestine, so on, right? There is definitely that problem, but you can't utilize Kobe's mourning as that.
Yeah.
You can't put it in the same category.
They're
Yeah.
extremes, man. People like to live on the edges for some reason.
Yeah, so I definitely
Good point.
understand.
Good point.
I totally understand where those brothers are coming from who are really upset by the outpouring of sympathy from this lowest common denominator, right?
Right.
Yeah, speaking of
But
that,
we
though, there was a
can't use
brother
that.
who tweeted out something a little bit harsh, and people just went like completely ballistic over it. And I'm thinking like, hey, you're so quick to understand where Kobe and Kobe fans are coming from, but you're not as quick to understand where this brother's coming from as well, too. The man travels to war-torn Muslim countries and sees Muslim dead bodies every day in, day out, starving, people suffering, and you can't understand why he would be upset that millions of Muslims are mourning Kobe Bryant and not even batting an eye towards millions of
Someone
Muslims
like
suffering.
someone like that, like Kobe Bryant, is nowhere on their checklist, bro. Nowhere on their list.
You know the thing though, people use social media as kind of an outlet. Like okay, you're gonna write, okay, Kobe Bryant died. Now you're gonna write a post about it. You're gonna take one of these two positions. You gotta ask yourself, like, what's my goal here? What am I trying to accomplish? Am I just trying to like blow off some steam and put my emotions down onto the screen? Or am I trying to reach people? Like, I think Muslims need to be smarter about it. You know what I mean? Like, let's take this thing that happened, possibly one of the most famous athletes in the United States, in the world. Okay. You got millions of people mourning him. Let's find a way to extract the good things he did. Let's find a way to draw lines between his legacy and our own values. You know what I mean? Like, because, I grew up watching Kobe, and there's a lot of things that I learned from him. You know what I mean? Like perseverance, mental toughness, work ethic, rigor, all these things. And what's the hadith where wisdom is the right of a Muslim, let him seek it? What is it?
Wisdom is the right of a Muslim.
Let him seek it wherever he finds it. Something like that. So I don't care if somebody's a kafir. If he's saying something, well, I'm not saying Kobe is, but I don't know. But before I get attacked, but like, yeah, let's say somebody is hypothetically.
Trigger warning.
Yeah. Let's say somebody is hypothetically, and they say something like, about work ethic. It's my right as a Muslim to learn from that and apply that into my own life. Yeah. I just think it's a great opportunity to reach people too.
Of course.
I don't think it's very smart to be like, oh, you guys are mourning Kobe? Well, millions of us have been dying. Okay, who are you trying to convince here? Who's going to be convinced by that?
Yeah.
Right. So on the flip side, I get what you're saying, but I think if we're willing, some of the people are just attacking because they're like, how could you, insensitive? And I get it. But at the same point, isn't that the same insensitivity he's talking about? That these are people that have, not every one of them, but there are people who are going on pages and tweets and memorials, RIP, making dua for the guy, and they haven't made a single dua for a Muslim yet about suffering, right? And like if your social media page is being dominated with stuff about Kobe Bryant, okay, that's more than just venting out some steam, right? You've taken this pretty seriously. I think he's talking about those kinds of individuals, not somebody that goes, oh, you know what, Kobe's dead, what a sad day. That's something different, I believe. I mean, if he's attacking those kinds of people, that's a bit too extreme for me, right? I mean, I think everybody has the right on a human level to be upset and sad that somebody's dead. And you can also, like you said, use that as an example. At the very least, you can say, hey, death is a reminder of the afterlife. I mean, whatever. I mean,
no matter what you.
I mean, at the very least, you could do that. I mean, there's always a reminder in that.
Do you know why he rode a chopper to work to his Mamba Academy to avoid LA traffic?
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of a reminder, like, Allah doesn't care how rich you are. You're gonna pass away just like everybody else.
Was it for like his daughter's game or something?
I thought he was like flying
But it was to avoid the traffic.
I know he
But he
flies
was going-
fans around.
But he does that daily. He goes to work in a chopper.
Yeah, he wanted to take his
avoid LA
daughter
traffic.
to avoid the traffic. That's what he does.
Well, yeah, California traffic does suck. Man.
But
Yeah,
that's
it
a
does,
sign,
But
like-
that's a major sign.
Like
you
you're
don't know,
just like everybody else.
But you don't know where Allah's
Yeah.
going to take you. You try to avoid traffic, but you can't avoid death, man.
They they say
Allahu
the
Akbar.
smog was so like powerful.
Yeah.
The pilot crashed into a canyon.
Well, what they say though
And
is
he's an
that okay,
experienced
so
pilot, though. Experienced,
generally in the morning there's like fog that comes over from the ocean, and it's kind of normal for California. By midday, it goes away. It's very normal that this happens. So what they do is they give clearance from the FCA, whatever, FAA, whatever it is, and generally they have instruments in these choppers that can detect, like have sensors, and so they know. But what happened was apparently he climbed too quickly in order to avoid the fog, to get above the fog. And I think in that ascent, like, is where he lost control or something. Something happened, and then the chopper malfunctioned. He died.
I think it said
And essentially,
accelerated really quickly into a canyon.
yeah, like he went straight up into it and without knowing exactly where he was. But the point I'm trying to say though is this: you have other people on the other side that'll say, "Oh, if he was like a normal human being and went through traffic and it would have been an hour, he would have been alive." And it's like, dude, this is Qadr Allah, right? No matter what.
Car accidents every day.
No matter what happened.
I mean,
Yeah.
it could have been an earthquake, anything. It could have been a drive-by. I mean, whatever, right? You know what I mean? If you're nobody dies unless it's at his appointed time.
Yeah, you can't escape the qadr of Allah no matter what, and I think that's the overarching lesson here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I think that's what people and I think that's another lesson to draw from here, that no matter how efficient you're trying to be, how much time you're trying, you could be totally doing a regular routine in your day, not even thinking about dying, and it just comes at that moment.
Yeah.
So you always got to be ready.
Yeah, man.
That's scary.
Mort, help us to understand a little bit about what's going on with the Palestinian situation. I know you did a little bit of research on it, and I wanted you to help us understand. Are we at the point where we're going to lose Masjid al-Aqsa to the Israelis?
No. Well, they're trying. They've been trying, but the reality is that from what I understand is the U.S. always puts forward plans during every presidential term to try to bring about world peace. They know that the peace in the Middle East is largely dependent on the Palestinian-Israeli issue. Both sides use that as a bargaining tool, right? We know that maybe they lack sincerity in that, but it is definitely a bargaining chip in terms of the when you look at the geopolitical climate there, it's a bargaining chip. So what does that mean for us? How does that translate for us as Muslims? Well, whatever deal they put forward, the Palestinian Authority has to agree to it. Yes. And if they don't agree to it, it won't be a deal. Now, does that mean that Israel cannot just go in there and take all of it? Of course they can. Their military is stronger than the Palestinian Authority, and stronger than, I hate to say this, but any Arab country there in that region right now. I mean, they have the backing from America. They have technology. They can do that. Is it likely in front of the international stage? I doubt it. But what are they trying to do now? Well, essentially, to sum it all up, the deal, Trump is trying to make them sell Jerusalem, Masjid al-Aqsa, saying we'll give you $100 billion, billions of dollars, and the Jews will have control of it. Israelis will have control of it. You'll have the right to pray, whatever, go there, but it'll be in their hand. It'll be their capital. And he's saying either you accept it, or it's going to happen eventually. So you might as well take a deal of a lifetime and take all this money and forget about it. It's done. We're here now. Forget about history. Forget about the past. We're here now. Israel's here. They have the army. They have control. You can't change that. We're not going to change our stance. We're going to support Israel. And eventually they believe that, Israel will have slowly but slowly settlements and things like that will eventually dominate Area C, which is like we're near Jerusalem.
So why did Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the Palestinian Authority...
Did you call Ahmadinejad?
Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, why did he break off ties with the Israelis?
Well,
that
because
surprised me, 'cause
they
he's
look at this
spineless.
as trying to undermine
But
the
isn't he
recognition
like a
of a
stooge?
Palestinian
He
state.
is a stooge, yeah, but I think he has to save face to a certain extent.
Oh yeah, it's just
Yeah.
theater, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
know,
I mean, look,
what's
the
the thing
PA
about
and the
the-
Hamas and these organizations, I hate to say that a lot of them do not have the best interests of Palestinian people at heart, right? It's a lot of it is they get a lot of funding, and there's a lot of it's like any kind of politics in the world you go into, right? At the end of the day, the deals they make, the negotiations they have, ultimately they end up harming the innocent Palestinians who have to live and endure through their occupation, right? So, bottom line, speaking about this, is that the Palestinians will never agree to sell Masjid al-Aqsa, as much
by
as
the
they
way,
want
Mort,
them to do that.
It's Al Aquaman.
Aqua.
Oh, yeah.
More, what's the thing about the evangelical goal to get all of the Yahud into the Holy Land because they believe that their Messiah will only return then? Is that real?
So
or?
what it is first of all, people don't realize this, but actually Zionism did not start from Jews themselves. It started actually before Jews. It started with
Before
Protestant
Theodore?
Christians.
Before Theodore Herzl?
Yes. Actually, if you look it up, there used to be a conference up here in Niagara on the Lakes called the Bible Conference. And they would talk about, they were Presbyterians, and they would talk about how Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam would only come back after all the Jews have returned to Israel, because they believe in the Torah, right? Where that God will gather the children of Israel in the land, and God told them to go to the land. And Jesus had come to preach onto the people of Israel. Like he came not onto the Gentile nations, but to the Jewish nation. So, the idea is that this goes back into a what we call their eschatology, or their apocalyptic text, which is basically it's called Armageddon. Armageddon is actually a Mount Gideon. It's actually a mount there. They believe actually. So there's two camps here. There's one of the evangelicals that believe that this is a foretelling of the future, like the end time to come, where Jesus will descend down from the earth, after all the Jews come to that land, and then 2/3 of them will die because they won't convert to Christianity, and 1/3 will become Christians. Something of that nature. Either one of the two. Either 2/3 will become, or 1/3 will die. But the idea is that they will be like little butterflies or fairies in the sky next to Jesus, watching this whole thing in real time. But watch how Jesus descends down.
Do they both believe that Jesus, when he comes back to the Holy Land, that he'll finish them off? Because I heard that actually
Finish
ironic.
all of them off?
Finish the Yahud off, because I've
Not
heard,
all of them. No,
I've
he'll
heard
make them
that's
bow down to him. If the
Yeah.
ones that don't, they will. Well, see, here's the thing. This is a funny thing.
Because I've heard that's an evangelical belief, and someone asked a Israeli politician about this, and he was like, "Well, if they want to think that, then that's their problem."
They don't believe it. They just like that the evangelicals are
right.
bringing.
Well,
So they're
except
using
the
each
hell.
other.
Yeah.
They're using each other, right? The Jews think, you know what, these guys are pagans. They openly say they don't believe they are muwahidin. Actually, even the top rabbi scholar, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, the Rambam, he's the one who is the most foremost Talmudic scholar. What is the Talmud? And Talmud is the Mishnah Torah and the Gemara, right? The Tanakh, which is the Chumash, which is the 5 books of the Torah, which is written. And the Mishnah Torah is the oral Torah, which was written later on. And that's the Gemara is the commentary, like tafsir of it. Okay? So they have in the Talmud, the one who wrote that, the Rambam, he also wrote something called Tigarat Tayman. Tigarat Tayman is a letter to the people of Yemen, the Jews of Yemen. And in there he says that the Muslims are muwahidin. They understand Tawheed. And if a Jew finds himself in a land where there's no synagogue, it's forbidden for him to enter a church at all. But if he finds himself in a masjid, he can go and pray in a masjid. Yeah. But he cannot go to a church at all. Why? Because they are pagans. And secondly, because they also have the concept of shubahat. Like, we don't do doubtful matters. Like someone might see him coming out of a church thinking that, he may have become a Christian. So if he comes out of a masjid, they'll say, he's a muwahid. He's not a Trinitarian. Right? So in that manner, the Rambam, Moshe ben Maimon, Maimonides, they call them, whatever. He's actually a guy who was in Cordoba in Spain, who actually left in Spain when the Muslims were kicked out, and he went and became the tradition of the king of Egypt. And he lived in Egypt his whole life. He died there. But anyways, point being is that, so these people, they believe that if they view these pagans, Christians, saying, oh, you know what, if they want to help us, fine. We know that when God gave us the land, God will bring us back to the land. And then they believe that the temple will somehow come down from the sky, meaning that Allah will allow it to happen how it happens.
Oh, they don't think it's under Al-Aqsa? Because I've heard the argument that it's like buried under Al-Aqsa, Sayyidina Sulaiman's temple or something like that,
Yes.
and they're like digging.
There are archaeological things that are there that they want, the Zionists want, because it proves their case of their continuity in the Holy Land. They'll try to go back and say, oh, we were here
So they're not
since
trying to
the
like
time of
discover a
Solomon.
temple down there?
Allah Alam. I mean, we don't know what's actually there are. I mean, the whole area is full of archaeological ruins, so it's difficult to maintain what's there. But in Jewish eschatology, or in their understanding of the return of their Messiah or Messiah, the temple, when he comes, the temple will come down. It'll automatically just be built from the heavens, and what's going to happen is that it will be a period of peace where like people won't be made into goyim, like they won't want to have the Jews rule them. Because you know how you ever hear this thing where they say, oh, you know, the goyim will serve the Jews and it's our job to do that. Mm-hmm. Well, the idea they think is that no, there'll be so much peace on earth and there'll be exemplary, the Messiah will be so exemplary that we will want to have them in charge of us. And so we will want to live like Noahides. Essentially, that's the idea that they have, right? That's traditional Hasidic rabbinical Judaism. The Zionists are...
Wait. The Hasidics, they believe that they will be under the rule of others or vice versa?
No. They will be in charge of everybody else. And we will want them to rule us because they're so righteous and the system they have, the Messiah that he brought is just great. Everything is a great time, right? Kind of like like after the time of the Al-Mahdi, there'll be times of peace or whatever after the Malhama. Kind of like that in a way where, okay, people will be just accepting of it, meaning that this is a better solution that we have right now, and it will be an example of a society for people to follow. That is rabbinical Judaism.
That's interesting, though, because the Yehudi concept of the Messiah is a little bit different than the Christians. The Christians is more of like a religious leader, whereas the Yehudi understanding is like a king. You know what I mean? That's why... if you look at it,
But why is it a king? Malak, why they say that? Because it'll establish the rule of Allah on the earth.
Yeah. But like if you look at
the Christians believe the king, they believe when Jesus comes back, it's the kingdom to come.
Right.
They believe that this is and that's why they believe, I was going to go back to the original comment, when they believe the Jews are going to die, they also differ on what does that mean? Does that mean a physical death or does that mean a spiritual death? Because they believe the worst death is the spiritual death. You're cutting off from Jesus. You'll never be you'll never be a Christian anymore, or out of the grace of God, whatever. But it also, for the early Christians, it meant violence, like they were going to kill them, because there's a verse in the Bible in Luke where it says, "Bring them hither and slay them in front of me, those who don't want my enemies to reign over them." That verse. So it was physical. But the point being is that they're both using each other. They look at each other as stupid. The Christians say, the Jews are stupid. They're rejecting Jesus. Wait till Jesus come back. He's going to kill them and make them, submit. And the Jews are like, these stupid pagans. They think that, the God's going to come and save us. So we're just going to use them as much as we can. Right? Because the largest Zionist movement is a Christian Zionist movement. Yep. It's not a Jewish one.
They're the ones, if you see those commercials and the infomercials of all the, how you have like Hajj packages, they have like visit the Promised Land packages. They're all run by
Come
Christians.
with us to the Holy Land with Jesus.
And raise awareness there.
Listen, man, there's some wild stuff in the Bible / man. I recently went to a university now that's like Christian, and so they're making us read the Bible as like a requirement. Let me tell you, like we're still in Genesis, and I'm sitting there so uncomfortable in class. Like we reached the point where it was talking about Sayyidina Ibrahim and his wife Sayyidah Sarah migrating to Egypt, and this is their account. Astaghfirullah, don't hold this against me. But they basically saying that Ibrahim, I'll just say Abram because that's what they say. Yeah, because that's not our prophet, right? They basically said that Abram went to Egypt, and he told his wife Sarai. Yeah, that's what it says, Sarai.
You're okay. You changed the name as well.
No, it says Sarai in the actual in Genesis. He told her to tell the Pharaoh that she's his sister, so that they wouldn't kill him and take her. And so what ends up happening is that they do that, and the Pharaoh takes interest in her and actually marries her.
Do you know why that is? Because he felt that if the king or the Pharaoh thought that was his wife, he, after seeing her and liking her, he would have ghira. And so out of his ghira, he would kill Ibrahim. So Ibrahim saved himself.
Yeah.
By saying he's a sister,
right?
Rather, I mean, it's crazy stuff.
No,
I mean,
but the marriage was like it's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
not only that, they actually, if you look at it, that Sayyidina Ibrahim, according to them, understood that the Pharaoh had an intention to mistreat her, like rape her. Like, I mean, there was like a the lewd act. It wasn't like something good.
They say it was consummated, and then after that, a plague hit the region, and the Pharaoh came back to Abram, and he said, you know, why didn't you tell me that this was your wife? Take her and go. And so they kicked him out of Egypt at that point. And it's just like, I don't, this blew me away. Oh, and we also read how Sayyidina Nuh was a drunkard, and he was so drunk one night that he was completely naked, and his sons walked in on him. And just...
Wait, this is not even the problem. They believe they don't believe that Lut is a prophet. We do, but they believe that Lut laid with his daughters. They got him drunk and they committed incest with him.
Dude, you know,
I mean, the stuff in the Bible. By the way, big shout out to two YouTubers, Farid Speaks and Muslim Defense. They've been there's an individual, couple people. People know who are in the scene of that in that area. There's David Wood and people like that. But there's a guy on YouTube named Christian Prince and Richard or David Christian, something like that, Rob Christian. And they've been making tons of these videos. Like this guy, Christian Prince, is an Iraqi guy. I think he just invites Muslims on the Skype and he just basically insults. He's an Arabic speaker. And I think somewhat, but he insults. And so finally they've responded to him. And a lot of these kind of things we're talking about, if you're interested, you can head over there and listen to the debates they have and refutations. But a lot of these Christians are becoming crafty in the way that they're using Israeliyat, and they're using these things to cause doubts in Muslims in terms of how we understand our own stories, right? So you have to be careful when you're reading this. If you're not familiar
let me tell you something I read in there that'll blow your mind. Okay, like I read it and I'm like, I don't understand how in 2020 you have like feminism is this prominent and like all these American women still call themselves Christian, right? I read this, it blew my mind. Basically, so in Islam, Iblis did not tempt Hawa, and Hawa told Adam, right? He tempted them both, right? In Genesis, the serpent, which is basically Iblis, tempted Hawa, and she fell into temptation, and then she gave her husband Adam from the fruit, right? And so after this, God apparently makes like an oath to all three of them. So he tells like the serpent, like, you will crawl on your belly for the rest of your life and you will be enemies with man. And then he goes to Adam and he tells him, you will I will make the earth hard to reap food from, and you will work by the sweat of your brow. And then he goes to the woman and he tells her, because of what you have done, I have inflicted upon you the pain of childbirth. And so all of your descendants basically are going to go through excruciating pain in childbirth because of this. So I'm reading this and I'm like, how are all of the girls in this classroom just sitting and not reacting? What is going on? Like, if this was in the Quran, we would never hear the end of it.
I think with devout Christians, with the women, they actually believe that they're taking a hit for the team for what their mother did. And they're totally cool with it.
If this was in the Quran, we'd never hear the end of it.
But the Christians would say it's just as equal or silly as you guys also acknowledge that the Ibrahim or Adam alayhi salam disobeyed, and we're all carrying the sin of his disobedience, that we were all sent to earth because of his disobedience, and we're carrying that sin as well. So they'll just kind of like
they don't have the concept of Esma. Like for us, I don't know. I heard Mufti Kamani saying this. I don't know if there's like ittifaq on it, but he basically said like they weren't tempted, they were actually lied to
They
by
were tricked,
Iblis.
yeah.
Iblis told them, oh, this is now halal for you.
Yeah.
And he
If
came
Yeah,
to
he
them one
deceived
time.
them.
Angels.
Right.
Yeah.
This is only Allah was telling you that only if you want to be two angels. إلا أن تكون ملكين.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because he tried to say that you were in the company of angels, so
Yeah.
this is forbidden for them, not you as a general, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how he deceived them. Not that he tried to say, oh, Yahweh, go over to him and make him
Because they
fall
never
from the
experienced
crazy.
trickery, right?
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught them everything, but as a test, that's the first time he experienced. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah says,
It was an introduction to Iblis. Yeah.
Right? He taught everything, the names of everything to Adam alayhi salam. And then he told the angels, look, we taught them all the names. And so that was their learning process. But that first time, he didn't even know the concept of trickery,
Yeah.
which is why he was tricked, right?
Whereas in Genesis, the paradigm is different. There was two trees apparently. There was a tree of knowledge of right and wrong, and the tree of life, right?
Yeah.
So when they ate from this forbidden tree, which was the tree of knowledge of right and wrong, now all of a sudden they knew the difference between right and wrong. Now there's two issues here. How did they know it was right and wrong to eat from it or not before they had that knowledge?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And second, the reason why the Genesis gives for expelling Adam and Hawa outside of the garden, which by the way they think is on Earth somewhere.
Yeah, Eden.
yeah.
Yeah, Garden of Eden. Is on.
Yeah.
No, but you
It's on
know,
Earth.
by the way,
Yeah.
hold on real quickly. I'll give you an interesting thing too, by the way. The name Hawa, for us it's Hawa. You know, I mean, but they believe in actually some of the Iraqi Christians, the Assyrians. You know, they spoke Aramaic, right? They originally did, right? Now they speak Assyrian, but in the Assyrian language, the Babylonian language, Hawa means serpent, snake.
No.
So they say this is
Wow.
the relationship. Yeah.
No, I
Dude,
didn't know
so
that.
so in Genesis, when God, right, God gives the reason to why he's expelling Adam and Hawa outside of the garden, he says because now they have eaten from this tree of knowledge of good and evil, so they have become like us. So I'm expelling them to keep them away from the tree of life so that they don't become immortal. And then he designates an angel with a flaming sword to guard that tree. So they don't come back into
It's like
the
a
garden.
comic book, bro.
So do you guys have anybody who's Christian in this class that actually argues and rebuttals kind of the teacher or tries to have like a discourse, like a critical discourse?
Nah,
or
bro.
no?
They just want to get
Most
they want to
people
get
are
an A
quiet,
and get
yeah.
out of class.
Most people are quiet, but there's this one kid that just like he in the beginning of the class, you know, they were talking about like the importance of like the oral tradition and like why it's not like the telephone game and stuff like that, and you know, trying to make sense of how it was written hundreds of years after. So he was like defending the Bible and stuff like that, like even more so than the teacher. But then he started asking questions, and this is the funniest thing. All the teacher can do is, you know, that's a great question. And you know what I'm going to say? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Every time I ask
No,
a
but
question.
you know what the funny thing is,
unfortunately,
though?
I don't
Oh,
know.
would you ask a question too?
Yeah, when I ask, because
How many Muslims? Oh, sorry, I know I'm asking tons of questions.
Yeah.
By the way, are you the only Muslim in that class?
No, there's me and the Somali girl, but she's just sitting in the back and like smiles. I'm
No, but you know what the funny thing though is? I'll tell you something. If you want to hear good arguments against how the Christians use the Torah and like the Old Testament, just listen to what Jews say about it. Because their understanding of, they're muwahideen, right? First of all, they believe Allah is one. So when they look at the story, their understanding, keep in mind, this came from them. They're Israeliyat. They're the ones who know. The Quran says you should ask the people of the book who know about the book.
Yeah, Genesis
Right?
is
They
the
know.
Torah.
But yeah, I mean, that's from their book. You know,
Yeah.
Deuteronomy, this is all
The Old
them. You know,
Testament.
this is all their book.
Right.
Devarim, all so
the
they
Pentateuch.
have this understanding of what it is, and their tafsir, they explain these things not the way the Christians want to. This idea of inherited sin, it's nonsense. We don't have that. They don't have that either. There's no inherited sin. But the biggest thing, you know why I don't get into all of this? Because it's irrelevant, man. The main thing is, dude, look, you guys believe that God is a man. Game over. I mean, it's over after that point. I mean, you can't convince anyone in the right mind. Look, I've said this time and time again. I tell this to every Christian I meet. The argument for me believing in Jesus is an emotional one, not a logical one. You want me, at the core of it, you want me to believe a man came 2,000 years ago, died, was spit on, was destroyed, mocked, killed, ridiculed, whatever, hung on a cross, and died for me, even though he didn't know me, and because of that, I should be grateful and believe in him.
Bro.
And I'm sorry, I believe in a God that can forgive me without sending his son and to die on a cross in a humiliating fashion because my God is superior to that. I'm sorry, right? And they can never get past that.
Bro, more, it gets crazier. It's not just one son that they think. If you read Genesis, there's a part of it where it talks about how many sons of God came down to the earth and mated
David,
with,
Ezekiel. I mean, they all believe the sons.
and mated with the beautiful women of the earth, and they gave birth to like demigods, and this angered God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
They believe the angels are part of God, by the way. You know that, right? Like they kind of mix that. That's why when they believe when they said that the angels they came in the form of men to Abraham, they believe and God came onto Abraham. They believe like that these are like in the form of gods. They believe that. So it's the amount of paganism and like just mythology they believe in this form. By the way, the Jews, when they understand this, it's entirely different. Like they understand that these angels, when they say, in the language, like it's an idiom. For example, the number one problem that Christians have is that they are ignorant of the Semitic languages. The Jews and the Muslims, they keep Semitic languages because there's an importance in it. The Christians, for them, it doesn't matter. You could have the Bible in 1,000 different languages. There's no importance. They don't believe that God chose the significance of a language, right? But I'll give you a small example. Like we're talking about angels here and how the Christians believe it may be a portion of God, right? Again, when the Christian, in the Semitic language, if I say, يعني عامر أنت رب البيت, does that mean that you are a Lord?
No.
Does that mean you're a God?
That means I'm just a landlord. I own the property.
Yeah, I mean but it's an idiom specific for what you're dwelling. Meaning that you are the authority in that household, right? When they hear this, if I put it into English, right, Lord Amir, of the house, right? What does that sound like? It sounds like he's a god, right? I mean, they make these things, and then they come with this stupid idea like, this is a small g, big G, little. We don't have capitals and small letter K's in Semitic languages. No such thing. This is nonsense.
But
right?
more something that the Jews and the Christians have in common that we don't have is the disrespect that they have towards the Anbiya. That blew me away.
Yeah, dude.
Like I'm telling you, it made me so uncomfortable.
You read the Gospels, man.
I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
How do you?
Yeah.
Maybe you should take more to your classroom. And rile things up
Dude, I do this for fun. I mean, these people, my God, dude, they're the most stupid people.
I grew up in a safe Muslim bubble where the Anbiya are ma'sumin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
My God. You will find stories of incest, rape, drunkenness, lewdness. I mean, even the most crazy laws, like in Deuteronomy, if a woman touches the testicles of a man because while she was trying to defend her husband in a fight, they have to cut her hand off. Like, who thinks about that?
Man, they don't want to do no jujitsu at all.
I mean, why? Like, what are you thinking about? Like,
I'm actually
more. If you do jujitsu, you're gonna catch a pair.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, look, now I have to be very careful because you know why? Look, we understand that in these books there is wahi, like it came at one point, right?
Yeah.
So Allahu Alam, maybe this is something that Allah actually did reveal. So I try not to make fun of those things because there are certain laws that they may see that we have that don't make sense, right? Like,
bro, but I feel like like I'll be reading it and I'm like, wow, this is definitely like this sounds like in the Quran, like and the Lord said be, so it was. I'm just like, wow. And then it's like I'm just like, okay, you lost the plot. Hi Shinu.
Yeah. No, hold on. I'll tell you something which is interesting to me too, by the way. Hold on, let me just pull this up for you guys real quick. And this is why I'm surprised no crazy evangelical in your class has brought up the argument that Allah is the moon god, all this, because they love doing that all the time.
Bro, they're
right?
Lutheran. I don't know anything about their factions. I don't know who's what. What is Lutheran? What is that? Is that
yeah, so I mean, Christian evangelicals are basically Protestants. That's all they are.
Okay.
I mean, but they love that. But here's the funny thing. I'll give you an example. Like in the beginning of the Bible, right? For me, it sounds like okay. Like in the beginning, you hear about it, and it sounds okay. It's cool. It makes sense. And then you hear something that totally turns you off. For example, in the Arabic Bible, it says تكون بداية العالم اليوم الأول النور في البدء خلق الله السماوات والأرض كانت الأرض قاحلة وفارغة وكان الظلام يلف المحيط وروح الله تحوم فوق Maya. So it's saying that basically that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and then the earth was formed without any shape or form, and it was formed from nothing. And then darkness was upon the earth, and then the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. Like you think, like, wait a minute, now Allah is coming in His creation and is moving upon the water. Like, what are you talking about? And then you start thinking about what are they? I've delved into this because I try to understand the concept. So what they say is, now look at the Christian understanding. The Christian will say, oh, look, Allah will be able to come in the form of creation, right? If you think about from the beginning how their mind is working, they have no problem with Allah being a human being because they believe Allah can be in a creation, right? Even from this very beginning of earth. But how does the Jew understand this verse? Is it the same way? It's not. The Jew will say, listen, this spirit you're talking about, it's called Shekhinah. And what this is basically that when Allah presented Himself in front of Musa alayhi salam in the mountain, right? When he went to go meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they say how Allah revealed a portion of Himself, right? That small portion is like the Shekhinah, is like the spirit. So it's not actually Allah, but it's from His bounty, from His might, right? So the Christian and the Jew understand is some completely different, but the Christian will take that and say, aha, God can be inside creation, right? So you see how the basic understanding of how Tawheed affects the way you understand even from the beginning of the Bible.
That's why I need tafsir, man. Like if a Muslim tries to say something like, because, I mean, you could do that to any text. You could derive some craziness out of that. But if a Muslim right now tried to derive that, you could be like, well, you have Tafsir al-Jalalain here. You have Ibn Kathir. You have Fakhruddin al-Razi. None of them said any of this. Where are you pulling this out from? You know what I mean? I feel like we Muslims are special because we actually embrace the older the things are, you know what I mean? Whereas I feel like...
And it's a preservation process too, to Salaf, right?
we embrace that. We value it. Like, we follow the Salaf. Why? Because they were closest to the Prophet ﷺ. I feel like in the Judeo-Christian paradigm, it's like the further away you get, the more advanced and mutatawwir it becomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, there's certain things. I mean, you understand. I mean, they have certain process of like ilm al-rijal, and they had that kind of stuff, but it's very different. The standard is so different than within Islam. The Jews actually have a much better standard than the Christians do. But even then, you see, here's what I tend to believe about this. I believe that whatever is in the Torah, Allah's scripture doesn't get corrupted. But what happens is that the understanding of men becomes corrupted. When Allah intends a bad for a nation, He removes knowledge from them, right? That's why the Quran says, اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. They took their rabbis and their monks to be lords besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that mean? They made things haram and halal. They started changing things. And we know that when the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to, in Medina, he went to a yeshiva, like an actual Jewish school. And they called him there because they wanted him to explain what the punishment would be for one who has killed somebody, a murderer. And they used to change the law. They were covering. They said, why do you not bring the Torah? By the way, they put him on a cushion. He said, bring the Torah. Then when he brought the Torah, he removed the cushion and he put it under there and they put the Torah on top of it. He said, I believe in you and the one that revealed you. And he says the punishment for him is, that you have to take a life for a life. This is the punishment for it. And then they said, well, he said, why don't you do this? Why do you play with it? He says, well, a king among us, he did it one time and we were ashamed. We felt ashamed to put a punishment over him. So we came up with a supplementary punishment would be that he would be blackened with coal and we made him ride around the town on a donkey to humiliate him. And so we started doing this as a practice. So the idea is, what do we learn from this? They knew the law. They understood, but they allowed their rabbis and people of power. That's why Allah says, do not sell your religion for a cheap price.
Yeah.
Right? Because they changed it to satisfy other people. And they knew the law. And that's why it says, اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Because Allah is the only one who can legislate over that. You can't change that law. And so I don't believe the Torah is corrupt. Because how can Allah's scripture become corrupt? It can't, right? But it's abrogated, right? It's mansukh. We have the Quran obviously replaces it, but it's the understanding of men that became corrupted.
Maybe the translations, I don't know, bro, because there's some explicit stuff in there that like can't be misunderstood.
Well, no, the Bible is different. The Bible is a little bit because the Bible has authors for days. You don't know.
I'm talking about the Pentateuch. The first books. I don't know, man. There's some stuff in there that's like, how do you?
But again, understand. Here's my advice. Okay, the thing is that you have to understand from their perspective, because there are some people who they believe are not Nabi that we believe are. For example, Sayyidina Lut. They don't consider him to be a Nabi, right?
Yeah.
Like they look at him like someone like Luqman, who is not a Nabi but who is a wise person.
Yeah.
Right, so it's different for how they understand. But if you look at the core, trust me, of Judaism and that, it's much. I mean, if you understand the reasoning behind what they're saying, it makes more sense than Christianity. Christianity just has zero sense at all. Like it's just literally a bunch of mumble jumble. Like
what I don't get is that if they don't believe that the rulings prescribed in the First Testament apply to them, why do they still incorporate that into the Bible? You know what I mean? Like,
good question. Ask them.
Like,
why? We don't know.
Because the first thing our professor said on the first day is like, you're gonna find some rulings here about like eating swine and alcohol and stuff like that, but that doesn't apply to us Christians because the First Testament was legislated towards the nation of Israel, and we are Christians. So our legislation was in the New Testament. So I'm thinking in my head, why do you have this?
So you know who does this? This is again the ayah in the Quran. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم. Who is the I mean from the arbab here? Who is this one? This is Paul. Paul comes and says that, you know what, the covenant is with Jesus now. He sacrificed himself. You don't need to worry about the atonement, because they believe Allah, the blood atonement. They believe Allah demanded blood, and so the in the tabernacle or in the temple, this is where the Jews used to offer their ubudiyya, right? They would offer their slaughter over there, their worship over there, right? They would do that, and they would continue to do it daily. Whenever they made sins, they would offer their atonement and ask for forgiveness, right? And they said, well, now Jesus has become the eternal sacrifice because his blood is eternal. So he is the Lamb of Christ, the Lamb of the Lamb of the Lord, right? He's the unblemished Lamb. All this weird talk, right? Like we're gonna eat it in communion, we're gonna eat his flesh and drink his blood. They believe all this stuff, right? Now, the face you're making, trust me, Amr, this is what they believe. They believe that literally in communion, the bread and the wine literally become the blood and flesh of Jesus, and they're eating this like some weird cannibalism stuff. I don't know what it is, but this is what they believe. They believe it's the Eucharist.
Listen, are you sure you're not just making this up, bro? Because this sounds...
No, trust me, it's called the Eucharist. I know this stuff. I believe it's very strange for a Muslim because it's just. And here's the funny part: they will insult Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and say, "Oh, how do you know Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam met with an angel in the cave? He could have been a crazy man, right?" But the man Paul, who changed their law for them, is the only one who witnessed Jesus coming to him in a vision. By the way, he's coming from Damascus to hunt Jews as slaves, and he's coming and he has a vision. Naturally, no one sees, and everything changes in Christianity.
Never met Jesus. Never ate any.
Actually, Jesus says, "I have come to fulfill the law, letter for letter, jot for jot."
Yeah.
Nothing shall change.
More. Do you listen to Rogan?
Yeah.
Did you hear him talking about Sayyidina Musa and the burning bush and how
that's so stupid.
He consumed some DMT. What was it?
Ayahuasca or psilocybin, whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is that I'll be honest with you. Now, I may be a little biased because I did look I'm really looking like heavily looking into Judaism, so I understand a little bit more. I appreciate more of the Jewish tradition than the Christian tradition, like 100%. I'm more biased. I can understand where the Jews come from. Put it that way. I cannot understand where the Christians come from at all. For me, like that concept of Christianity is such an alien concept. It's such a confusing thing that the commonality between the Muslim and the Jew, that if you ask either one of us what our creed is, it's extremely simple for us.
Yeah.
We say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. They will say, their morning, every morning they say Shema. They say the morning prayer. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. They said, "Oh, hear Israel." Shema. Shema Yisrael. Oh, hear the Israel. Adonai Eloheinu, your Lord God is Hashem, whatever. Yeah, and He's one. Echad. He's singing, and that's for us. It's simple. The Christian, you can never find a Christian two Christians who can explain the Trinity the same way. Not one. Some will say it's ice, it's water, it's 3 in 1, it's 1 times 1 times 1 times 1.
Oh my God. The funniest,
you can't understand it.
Thing I've ever heard? Someone was trying to explain it to me and they're like, you know how you get those shampoos that are 2-in-1? It's conditioner and shampoo. Well, this is like conditioner, shampoo, and body wash. Like,
It's the 3-in-1. It's the Dove soap. It's Sim's body wash and anyways, I don't want to make this whole show about that. Maybe we can do a different time. We can do this. Yeah.
So, thank you for
but
the
yeah,
class,
I mean,
Mort. That was
good
a
luck.
deep class, bro. Thank you for the history lesson, bro.
No, good luck in your class because you're gonna lose your mind, dude. Hearing all this, audacious stuff.
What do you got up next, Mom?
What's happening in your life? What you got going on?
well, I am just in school and
I've
jujitsu.
extended you an invitation to come here once a month. Let's record, and I don't extend it just like as a polite thing.
special, dude.
Mom, you know why it's so important? I was researching some. You ever hear of academia.edu? It's like a place where a lot of
great
research.
website, yeah.
So someone had Mad Mooks written down as a citation or something, and right next to that, they had something that said South Asian podcast, and that blew me up, man. I got so mad because our identity is Islam, and I'm always harping on this Islamic identity. Get rid of, and this guy, he put us down as a South Asian podcast, and it's the responsibility falls on people like you, Humam, who have to come on the show and show that we're not just a South Asian podcast. This is about all the various colors of and ethnicities of and tribes of Islam are.
Bro, they don't care. We brought Mogo. We're not black enough. We brought him. We're not, I mean, I'm in goddamn Yemeni. Half of it. And they won't even acknowledge. They won't care. They'll just be like, whatever. Who cares? They don't. They want to. They won't portray you to be someone they want.
To be fair,
you
you kind of look Desi.
You do.
Huh?
You kind of look Desi.
He's partially.
Of course I look Desi. For no doubt. Maybe I should start wearing a Hamdani or imama so they at least know that.
Look like. That's a good question. I've gotten everything under the sun. I've gotten.
I would never guess you were Iraqi.
Yeah, I would never guess you were Iraqi. I would say maybe you were like maybe Syrian if you told someone speaking Arabic to me. I would never guess.
I would say from Brazil.
Yeah, I've gotten Argentinian. I've gotten.
What about Bosnian? Never get Bosnian before?
No, I've gotten Albanian. I've gotten Portugal, Albania. I've gotten Spain, Greece,
Maybe
Turkey.
if we put a mustache and aviators and a beret on you, maybe you look a little
more
Iraqi.
Brazilian.
Dude, my wife makes fun of me. She tells
Such
me
a
I have
punk.
Asian
I
eyes.
saw what you did there. He's such a punk, bro.
That's your
made you
Turkic.
look like
That's your
Saddam Hussein.
Turkic side, dude.
Yeah, exactly. My wife makes fun of me. She's like, I always knew you're from Asia because Iraq is in Asia. Because she's Egyptian. She's from Africa. She's like, I always knew you're from Asia. Well, I didn't know you were that Asian. She's like, your eyes are really small. I'm like, wow.
But Egyptians don't like it when
No, but you know the
African,
thing I really that's the thing that Muslims really need to
Except in
focus on, dude.
soccer.
I know that we always claim that we're not racist or whatever, but we've let other people subcategorize our community into subcategories, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the South Asian, the Arab, the whatever, I mean, at the end of the day, that it should just be, they should just call us Muslims. And so Sim is right, man. We should be outraged. We should write letters of condemnation.
What was this article
Like
on
public apology. I'm appalled. # I'm offended.
What
I think it was along the lines of Hamza Yusuf or something like that.
Okay.
And they were doing some kind of research related to what Muslim community in the West thinks of.
Maybe I might write a piece about
affiliation.
this. They're trying to hide my Yemeni side, and this is oppression of the Yemeni people. So I'm offended. I need a damn apology now.
Hurt.
Yeah.
Muzzy bug.
You're hurt.
So anyway, guys, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Everyone on YouTube and on the live chat for commenting. After the show goes live, make sure you comment and let us know in the comment section below what your thoughts are regarding all the different things that we talked about during this episode. Many of you guys are always messaging us about why this channel isn't as popular as others, but the onus falls on you to like, share, subscribe, comment under the video. The channel itself is only a little over a year old. The podcast has been around for 4 years. The stats and stuff for the podcast are completely separate from YouTube. So it is much more well-known in the podcast sphere. Help us out on patreon.com and help us make this thing successful so that we can produce more content. Patreon.com / the Mad Mamluks.
We want to retire and just make shows all day long. That's what we want to do, guys.
Yeah, I wish.
Also, if you're on the fence on Jujitsu,
Yes.
get over the fence. You need to do it. It'll change your
Let's
life.
do it.
It'll
Just
change
don't
your
think
life.
and do it, right?
Change
Yeah,
your
yeah.
life. It'll you'll be actually practicing the sunnah. You'll be wrestling. It's a form of wrestling, right?
Yeah, it's submission wrestling.
Submission wrestling.
Look, man, if you're going to the gym for 2 hours twice a week, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Just go do jiu-jitsu for 45 minutes every day. You will see a difference in your mental health, your physical health, your energy.
There's that new study now about like those type of things that like running just helps depression.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not gonna get into specifics, but jiu-jitsu has helped me a lot. Like just stay grounded. You know what I mean?
you, man.
Also, guys need to get that primal energy out. So jiu-jitsu is a great way.
Yeah, I agree, man.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you,
right,
man.
guys.
Inspiration.
We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. I'm actually going to be traveling for the next couple weeks, so if
Ooh, where are you
not-
going?
Where you going?
A
How come you
little
never
bit
told
here
us?
and there. I can't
Ooh.
talk about it for legal reasons, but we'll
So if I catch you, if I get a phone call from Colombia, I know it's you. Okay, all right, cool.
yeah, we'll see y'all next time in a couple weeks, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Well, I think I'll probably have a backdrop. What do you call it? Those episodes where you have loaded.
Backdrop.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those backlogged episodes
There you go.
from back in the day, and I'll release that, inshallah. All right, guys, we'll see you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Like, sit down.